How to Find Your Inner Motivation. By Rohn. Once the lights went on for me, they have never gone out. I've had a few disappointments, but I've never lost that drive to do something unique with my life. Creating the perfect personal life takes just as much attention as creating the perfect professional life. Life is a bit of both up and down, but with true friends who care. Regardless of your circumstances, the ups are more meaningful and the downs are less devastating. Happiness is the joy that comes from designing a life that practices the fine art of living well. Reinforcing the habits of success. When you are doing all that you can possibly do, and you are successful at reaching your expectations, keep doing it. Success is one of the best forms of motivation. Psychologists call this positive reinforcement. We all know about positive reinforcement. That's how we train our dogs. That's how we teach our kids. That's how the trainers at SeaWorld can get a killer whale to do tricks, follow commands, and work side by side with humans. When you bring home a new puppy and try to teach him not to mess in the house, what do? You reward him for going outside or for scratching at the door. When you're trying to get your toddler out of the diaper stage, what do? You reward him with special presents. You make him feel special for learning something new. When you're trying to get your older kids to crack the books and study, what do? You reward them when they get good grades. You teach them that the skills they are developing now will have positive effects on their lives later. And you do that by rewarding them now. This is positive reinforcement, learning that there are rewards for doing something good, something worthwhile, something of value. The greater the value, the greater the reward. The better you do, the better your reward. A bigger paycheck, a better house, financial freedom, it's all a reward system. There are two major benefits of positive reinforcement. Number 1, positive reinforcement builds good habits. If the habits you're practicing are increasing your success, keep doing them. Your success is reaffirming that these habits are good. Your success tells you that you need to keep doing what you are doing. By reviewing the habits that lead you to success, you reinforce them. You give them staying power. Here's the other side. By reviewing your habits, you may find out that some of them are inhibiting your success. You may find out that what you're doing every day is bad for you. Or you may realize that you've stopped practicing some very good habits. Somebody says, well, I've just gotten out of the habit of taking my daily walk around the block. Well, I guess you'll just have to get in the habit of being sick later on. Somebody says, well, I used to read the books all the time, I've just gotten out of the habit. Then change it. Get back into your disciplines. If you've just gotten out of the habit, just get back into the habit. It's called discipline. The second benefit of positive reinforcement is that it creates the energy to fuel additional achievement. It gives you the drive to do more, to not only keep on doing what's right, but to do more of what's right. The knowledge that what you're doing is paying off creates more energy to keep going. How easy is it to get up in the morning when you know you're not doing all that it takes? It's not very easy at all. You can just lay there, awake, thinking, oh, what's a few more minutes in bed? It won't matter much anyway. Wrong. It does matter. It will matter. How easy is it to get up in the morning when you're anxious to make progress toward your dreams? It's a whole different story. When you're resting to renew your reserves, it's much different than resting to avoid your day. When you're psyched up and excited about life, when you're excited about what you've planned to accomplish for the day, it's amazing how you'll wake up long before the alarm clock tries to startle you awake. Your successes fuel your ambition. Your successes give you extra energy. Your successes pave the way for more successes. It's the snowball effect. When you achieve one success, you're excited to meet another, and another, and another. Pretty soon, the disciplines that were so difficult in the beginning, the disciplines that got you going, are now part of your philosophy. And they keep you going. Analyzing your progress. How can you identify the habits that are working for you and those that aren't? How can you make sure that you are reinforcing your positive disciplines? If it isn't apparent if what you're doing is happening in such small increments that you're not sure if you're on the right track, then you need to be writing it down. You need to keep a written record. You need to write down everything that may be relevant from each day, what you did, who you saw, what you feel, how it may or may not affect you now and in the future. The best way to track your activities of the day is to write them down. The best way to track your activities of the week is to write them down. The best way to analyze your progress through the year is to have written it down. Why? So you can look back at your notes. Because by keeping a written record of your life, you will be more accountable. By putting into writing the steps that you have planned, you will easily see what works and what doesn't. There's something magical in identifying a problem. As soon as you start writing it out, you start figuring out ways to make it work. Perhaps the magic is that when you write it down, you can now be objective. You can start to objectively see where you fit into the picture. You can start to see if you are being responsible and self-reliant. You are pondering all the relevant facts. You are trying to figure it all out. The fact that it is now on paper actually creates a space between you and the problem. And in this space that you have created, new solutions have room to grow. You see, writing about events that occur helps you to understand exactly what is happening. When you describe life to yourself only in your mind, your imagination tends to feed back false information about how things really are. You may be working with distorted information. If you keep the information just in your mind, your creativity can create scenarios that really don't exist at all. But by writing it all down, you now can become more factual, more accurate, more realistic, more logical. Then as you reread what you have written, you create new pictures in your mind. Once you see things as they are, rather than how you think they are, you can see how to make them better.
It's all part of being responsible. It's all part of seeing things objectively to fully understand the steps that you must take to make things better, to better prepare yourself for the opportunities that lie ahead. 4 factors of motivation. We need all the motivational help we can get. But of course, different people are motivated by different things. I've read a number of studies on motivation, and the ones that I've found most convincing have isolated 4 main factors as the most powerful human motivators. I'll go through them one by one, and I urge you to read them carefully. Think about how you can put them to use to help you accomplish your goals. If you're in a managerial or leadership position, think also about how you can use them to help motivate the people you're supervising. These are the real factors that make people get off their behinds and do things. These are the things that work when wanting to just isn't enough. These are the true reasons for believing something is worth doing and then actually doing it. The first great motivator is recognition from peers. When soldiers in wartime give up their lives during combat, why do they do it? Is it because of patriotism, a belief in the cause they're fighting for, or a fear of court-martial if they do otherwise? Perhaps all those things play a part, but extensive research has shown that what really motivates a soldier to fight well in combat is the desire for the respect of the person who's fighting right beside him. This is much more important than medals or other forms of public recognition, which in the confusion of wartime are often given to the wrong people anyway. What motivates soldiers in combat is analogous to what motivates salesmen on the floor of a car dealership, students in a classroom, or a team of lawyers trying to win a case. I don't know if this is still done, but for many years the players in the National Football League used to select their own all-star team at the end of each season. I was always interested and rather amused by the differences between the players' selections and the all-star teams picked by fans or sports writers. I'm also certain that the honor of being selected by one's fellow players meant a lot more than any sort of recognition from someone sitting up in the grandstand with a hot dog in his mouth. Quite simply, recognition from peers is a truly powerful motivating force in any human activity. The second important motivator is recognition from respected experts or authorities. I can tell you that, in my own life, this has been an extremely important factor. Mr. Schoaf was someone whom I respected from the first moment we met, and he was also someone whose respect I desperately wanted to earn. Has there ever been someone like that in your life? It's important to realize that a respected expert doesn't have to be a person who's known far and wide throughout the world. You are the one who establishes the qualifications, though. Very often people whom you find impressive will be equally impressive to others. Once you've met such a person, or even if you've just seen him from a distance, or perhaps read an article about him in the paper, don't hesitate to politely approach him and introduce yourself. Unless you happen to catch them at a particularly difficult moment, most successful people are eager to help others and to pass on what they've learned. Sure, I was apprehensive about meeting Mr. Schoaf, but I shudder to think what my life would be like if I hadn't introduced myself. From a motivational point of view, the great thing about establishing a relationship with a mentor is that you eventually become so close to that person that you can almost hear him advising you even when he's not really there. Earl Schoaf passed on years ago, but I still feel like he's talking to me every day. I also feel that I still want to earn his approval and respect. It will probably always be that way. Family is the third great motivator, and in many ways it's the most powerful. Although the approval of peers and experts may be most important in your career, in your life as a whole, nothing can compare with the influence of your family. An experience I had a number of years ago is a good illustration of that principle. I had just finished giving a talk before a group of entrepreneurs up in Minneapolis when a young man approached me and asked for some advice about achieving financial success. As I always do when asked for that sort of advice, I began with a couple of standard, straightforward questions. The first one was, how much money would you like to make annually? When I ask this question, I want to see whether the person has given enough thought to his goals that he can come up with a specific figure. That's a much better sign than someone who just says, I want to make a whole lot. But this fellow was even more specific and focused than I could possibly have expected. I need to make at least $250,000 a year for the next 10 years, he said without a second's hesitation. And why do you want to make that amount? I now inquired. This was another standard question of mine, and once again he answered immediately. Mr. Rohn, he said, 10 years from now, when my kids are old enough to enjoy it, I want to take my family on a trip around the world that they'll remember all their lives. The trip will last for 12 full months, with no expenses spared, and in order to save enough money to make it happen, I will need an annual income of $250,000 for the next decade. There were literally tears in his eyes as he said this, and although I haven't heard from him since then, I have no doubt that he will achieve his goal. In my mind's eye, I could picture him over the coming years, working long hours, meeting deadlines, overcoming obstacles, doing everything it takes to be successful, and doing it gladly. After all, he was motivated by something more than the simple desire for financial success and the material rewards that come with it. This man was working hard because he desired to give his wife and children a lifetime's worth of priceless memories, and if that isn't a reason to believe, I don't know what is. A person who can feel that level of emotion for other human beings is truly blessed, and a family who can have that sort of man for a father is truly blessed as well. The fourth and last achievement motivating factor I want to mention is closely related to the desire to do something for your family. In fact, you could say it's the desire to help the whole family of man. Let's call it the impulse toward benevolence, toward sharing your wealth and wisdom with the world. I'm fond of a story about Andrew Carnegie, the Scottish immigrant who founded the United States Steel Company in the early 1900s. When Carnegie died, a yellowed sheet of paper was found in his desk on which he'd written a note to himself when he was still in his 20s. This note set forth the main purpose of his life. It read, I am going to spend the first half of my life accumulating money, and I am going to spend the last half of my life giving it all away. Did this impulse toward benevolence prove to be a strong motivator for success? Well, during his lifetime, Carnegie's fortune was estimated at $450 million, the equivalent of $4.5 billion today. And he did have the joy of giving it away. In addition to building Carnegie Hall in New York City, he founded libraries in hundreds of small towns all across America, and participated in dozens of other philanthropic activities as well. When we look at these four important motivators, what do we really see? The thing that I immediately notice is that they all involve other people, whether they are peers, mentors, family members, or simply fellow members of the human race. It's ironic, isn't it? To be successful, you need this very internal, very personal, very unique thing called motivation. And to acquire that innermost quality and set it to work, you need to recognize other people as reasons to believe.
Creating your list of reasons. There's a list of reasons for doing well called the nitty-gritty, those little reasons that can really affect your life. Sometimes it doesn't take much of a goal to start you in a brand new life direction. I now carry a few $100s in my money clip at all times. It's only a few $100, but the story behind why I do it reveals one of those situations that greatly affected me. Just before I met Mr. Schoaf, I heard a knock at my door one day. When I opened it, there was a little girl selling Girl Scout cookies. She gave me one of the finest sales presentations I've ever heard. A special deal, many varieties to choose from, and only $2. With a big smile, she very politely asked me to buy. And I wanted to. But there was one big problem, I didn't have $2. And to this day, I can still clearly remember the pain and the Embarrassment. I was a father, I had been to college, I was working, and I didn't have $2. Since I didn't want to tell her that, I did what I thought was the next best thing. I lied to her. I said, I've already bought lots of Girl Scout cookies. I've still got plenty stacked in the house. It wasn't true, but it seemed to get me off the hook. For the moment. She said, "That's wonderful, sir. Thank you very much," and she went away. That was the day I said, I don't want to live like this anymore. I've had it with being broke, and I've had it with lying. I've had it with being embarrassed over not having any money in my pocket. I promised myself that day that this would never happen again. I now carry plenty of money with me, and I do it for 2 reasons. First, I like the special feeling of security and abundance it gives me. Second, that little girl Scout may be all grown up now, but I never again want to miss the chance to help another young entrepreneur. In fact, some years after making this resolution, I happened upon 2 little girls selling candy right outside of a bank. They were raising money for a girls' organization. The first little girl walked up to me and said, "Mister, would you like to buy some candy?" I said, "I probably would." "What kind is it?" She said, "It's almond roca." I said, "That's my favorite." "How much is it?" She said, "It's only $2. How appropriate." So I said, "How many boxes of that candy do you have?" She said, "I've got 5. And to the other little girl standing there, I asked, "How many boxes do you have?" She said, "I've got 4. I said, "That's 9. I'll take them all." They said, "Really?" I replied, "Yes. I've got some friends, so I'll pass them around." They were so excited. As they put all this candy together, I reached into my pocket and gave them $18. Then the first little girl looked up and said, "Mister, you are really something. How about that?" Can you imagine only spending $18 and having someone look you in the face and say something like that? Now you know why I carry a lot of money. I'm not going to miss those chances anymore. It was a small goal, just a few $100s. But it had a powerfully motivating effect on my life. Balancing the personal and professional. Balancing your personal life with your professional life is key to sustaining your motivation. Your home life and work life must balance perfectly. Make sure that what you're going for in your career complements your home life. Make sure that what goes on at home complements your career. One won't work well if the other doesn't. For example, a woman gets into work early in the morning and is the last one to leave every night. This goes on week after week, month after month. It doesn't seem like she gets that much more accomplished than anyone else. As a matter of fact, it seems like she's using the office to escape from home. Something's wrong there. Something needs to be fixed. Chances are, whatever is bothering her at home is affecting her work, too. Or think about this. A man is always late for work. He always takes off during the middle of the day to go home. There always seems to be some sort of emergency to tend to at home. He takes long breaks. He leaves work early. He's not getting his work done in record time. In fact, he's not getting anything done at all. Chances are, he's using the emergencies at home as excuses to stay away from his job. If something is wrong at work, fix it if you can, or look for your solution elsewhere. If something's wrong at home, fix it. If what's going on at home is the result of neglect, admit it, then fix it. Pay greater attention. If you need to go to counseling, go to counseling. Talk with your minister. Talk with a trusted friend. But remember that whatever the problem is at home, it probably didn't happen overnight. So make sure to give your problem time to heal. Be patient. There must be a balance between work time and home time, professional time, and personal time. They both have to be working well in order to maximize your motivation. Problems at home affect work. Problems at work affect your home life. Even when things are going well in both areas, special circumstances may, at times, call for work to take away from home time. If that's the case, make sure everybody at home knows when to expect the light at the end of the tunnel. If that extra project is really taking away time for the family, make sure your family knows that their time will be paid back with interest.
Psychologists have found two major things that we, as human beings, get the most happiness and satisfaction from. Number one is our work, our contribution to society, our continued progress toward reaching our goals, our area of influence and power. Number two is love, the love we receive from our spouse, our children, our parents, our families, and our friends. Knowing that one person, or several people, care about us and want to spend time with us is an important factor. The professional goals that you've outlined for yourself take a lot of work. They require constant learning to improve yourself and develop your skills. Don't expect that your achievements will come to you on a silver platter. Don't work on the wish, hope, and prayer philosophy. You know that your goals require constant attention and discipline every day. Otherwise, they'll never come to you at all. You can't just expect to come home at night after a long day and expect your family life to be improving all by itself. You can't just expect that your personal life will grow and flourish without attention, without your taking the time to feed and water and weed out the negativity that happens while you're away. Creating the perfect personal life takes just as much attention as creating the perfect professional life. It takes love, nurturing, kindness, sincerity, and caring. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that occur today. People spend all their time, focus all their energy, and give everything they've got to the job. It can't work that way. Your family requires more than that. The investment you initially made to your personal relationships is the investment you must continue to make. The more you give, the more you get. If you stop giving, guess what? You'll probably stop receiving, too. So keep your investment in relationships and family active. That's part of the good life. What good is a mansion on a hill if you've got no one to share it with? What good is an investment portfolio worth millions if you've got no one to share it with? What good is working so hard day after day, month after month, year after year, working until you accumulate everything you want, and in the meantime, your family leaves you? It all loses its value. Work hard. Play hard. Life has to be balanced, or your motivation will suffer, along with your lifestyle. Life without balance can cost you your relationships. Life without balance can cost you your health. Life without balance can cost you your spirituality. Life without balance can cost you your wealth and your happiness. So find things to motivate you from all areas of life. Your success depends on it. Living your life in style. A life lived in style is also a balanced life. Make sure you pay attention to all the values and dimensions of your life. One is family. If you have someone you care about, there is nothing to match that. One person caring for another is life at its best. Protect that relationship with a vengeance. If a chair gets in the way, I suggest you destroy the chair. It was wisely said long ago, but is still true today. There are many treasures, but the greatest of these is love. It is better to have a love affair while living in a tent on the beach than to live in a mansion by yourself. Ask me, I know. Family must be cultivated like an enterprise, like a garden. Time, effort, imagination, creativity, and genius must be summoned constantly to keep your family relationships flourishing and growing. The next dimension of life is friendship. A priceless value, friendship. Friends are those incredible people who know all about you and still like you. Friends are those people who stay by your side when everyone else is leaving. As someone once suggested, be sure to make the kind of friends on your way up who will take you in on your way down. Life is a bit of both up and down, but with true friends, friends who care regardless of your circumstances, the UPS are even more fantastic and the downs are less devastating. Traveling around the world, I have made some unique friends. And I do have one particularly special friend. If I were stuck in a Mexican jail and unduly accused, I would call this friend. Why? He would come and get me. Now that is a friend, someone who would come and get you. How much would he would spend to get me? As much as it would take. How long would he would try to get me out? As long as it would take. That is a friend. I also have some casual friends who would probably say, call me when you get back. I guess we all have some of those friends. But friendship is so vitally important to those in search of the good life. Make sure your friendships get the attention and the effort they deserve. Properly nourished, they will give back to you that priceless treasure of both pleasure and satisfaction called the good life. Remember, the good life is not measured by material wealth or possessions. The good life is an attitude, an act, an idea, a discovery, a search. The good life comes from a lifestyle that is so fully developed, regardless of your bank account, that it provides you with a constant sense of joy in living. It fuels the fires of motivation to adopt a lifestyle that makes living worthwhile. What is wealth without character, industry without art, quantity without quality, enterprise without satisfaction, possession without joy? Become a person of culture. Become that person of unusual substance who brings an added measure of genius to life so our children will be the beneficiaries.
It's not the amount that counts. Some people have plenty of beautiful possessions and activities filling their days, but they get little happiness from them. Some people have money, but they have trouble finding joy in their lives. Imagine a father who wads up a $5 bill and throws it at his son saying, "Here, if you need the darn stuff that badly, take it." He may have money, but he has no style. It's not the amount that counts, it's the style that counts. Mr. Shove taught me about lifestyle in those early days, starting with small doses. He said, imagine that you are getting your shoes shined, and the shoe shine boy has done a fabulous job. You have one of the world's all-time great shines, so you pay him for the shine. Now, you consider from the change in your hand what kind of tip to give him, and the question pops into your mind, shall I give him 1/4 or 2/4 for my neat shine? If two different amounts for a tip ever come to your mind, always go for the higher amount. Become a 2/4 person. I said, what difference would that make, 1/4 or 2/4? He said, all the difference in the world. If you say, well, I'll just give him 1/4, that will affect you for the rest of the day. You will start feeling bad. Sure enough, in the middle of the day, you will look down at your great shoe shine and say, I've got to be cheap. 1 lousy quarter. That will affect you profoundly. However, if you go for 2/4, you won't believe the feeling you can buy for another quarter. That's motivation, becoming a 2/4 person and learning to get joy from the greater person you are becoming. The Universal Quest. George Leonard, in his book Mastery, talks about enjoying the plateau. This is an important point. So often, we find ourselves racing to get ahead, thinking so much about our next achievement that we can't appreciate the time in between. We find ourselves losing our motivation. Happiness is not in the getting. Happiness is in the becoming. Happiness is a universal quest. Happiness is a joy that comes as a result of positive activity. It has a wide variety of meanings, a wide variety of interpretations. Happiness is both the joy of discovery and the joy of knowing. It's the result of an awareness of the full range of life. It's opening yourself to experiences, sounds, harmonies, dreams, and goals. It's the joy that comes from designing a life that practices the fine art of living well. Happiness is being able to explore all that life offers. Happiness is quite often found in having options of doing what you want to, instead of doing what you have to. The option of living where you want to, instead of living where you have to. The option of looking like you want to, instead of settling for what you have to look like. Happiness is receiving and sharing, reaping and bestowing. Happiness is found in taking the time to enjoy what you've accomplished, enjoying the plateau. Giving yourself credit when credit is due, patting yourself on the back for a job well done. Happiness is the here and now. Happiness isn't the end result. Happiness is part of the journey. There's an old saying that goes, the road to heaven is heaven. The happiness that you're searching for in the future must be found today. The success you're after in the future will only be found by working on it today. Motivation is generated when there is a balance between the need for active achievement and the satisfaction in taking the time to acknowledge what you've already achieved. Take the time to reflect while you're enjoying your plateau. And while you're reflecting back on your past accomplishments, think about something else. Think about the potential within you that's still untapped. Consider the following 2 questions during your time of reflection. Number 1, what could I have achieved in the past had I been more diligent? Could I have been more disciplined? Worked smarter instead of harder? Said no more often to social functions and community commitments? What could I have achieved in the past had I tried things a little differently? Only you can answer this question. It's very personal. While you're reflecting and enjoying your plateau, all I'm asking is that you dig a little deeper and see if you can't be just a bit more effective next time. Work a little smarter instead of a little harder. Here's number 2, how can I achieve more in the future? If you take some time to thoughtfully answer question number 1, you'll probably have a clue as to what's needed in the future. Do you need to work more diligently? Do you need to be more disciplined? Do you need to work smarter instead of harder? Do you need to say no more often? Do you need to manage your time better? That's one of the keys to reflection. You can put down on paper what worked for you in the past and figure out ways to translate this information into action. You can design your future better if you can learn from your past. You can face your future with more excitement, more anticipation, and more motivation when you design a future worth getting excited about. You can see your future and have it pull you forward. Just don't forget to pat yourself on the back for what you have done so far. Often we are in such a hurry to get ahead that we don't take the time to appreciate what we've already accomplished. Remember to sit back every day for a few minutes of enjoying the plateau. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you like the content.